Revolutions are supposed to bring change, right? A brighter future, a better system, a society where everyone has a voice. But what if I told you that, despite all the hype and hope, more than 70% of political revolutions end in failure or disappointment? Shocking, right? History is full of revolutions that promised freedom and equality but delivered chaos or oppression instead. Think about the French Revolution, an uprising meant to bring liberty, equality, and fraternity, but it ended in terror and a dictator. Or the Russian Revolution, which promised a workers' paradise but turned into Stalin's reign of fear. In this video, we'll dig into why political revolutions so often fail. We'll explore the surprising reasons behind these crashes, like the gap between revolutionary ideals and real-world challenges, how power shifts lead to chaos, and why even the best-intentioned leaders can become tyrants. If you've ever wondered why revolutions struggle to bring real, lasting change, you'll want to stick around for this. The answers might surprise you. Chapter 1: The Mirage of Utopia, Expectations versus Reality. Revolutions often begin with a dream, an idea of creating a perfect society. But the road from revolt to reality is rarely as clear as the vision. In theory, a revolution promises equality, justice, and prosperity for all. But when the dust settles, those grand expectations can quickly collide with the harsh realities of governing a nation. A study of the French Revolution, for instance, shows that what started as a quest for liberty and equality ended in the rise of Napoleon and a new dictatorship. This clash between expectation and reality is a core reason revolutions fail. Take the case of the 1917 Russian Revolution. The Bolsheviks promised peace, land, and bread, but what they delivered was a brutal civil war and eventual totalitarian rule. Revolutions tend to oversell change, and once the revolutionaries are in power, they face tough decisions that are far from idealistic. With no easy answers, their initial promises become harder to keep. And, as history shows, the failure to meet these expectations leads to the loss of popular support and even violent backlash. Chapter 2: The Tyranny of the Replacement, From Hero to Villain. One of the most fascinating paradoxes of revolutions is how the heroes of the movement often transform into the villains. In many revolutions, those who rise to the top start as the champions of freedom. But once in power, their idealism fades, and they often become authoritarian figures themselves. Take George Washington, for example. Though he led the American Revolution, his presidency was marked by a strong central government, and he was willing to suppress dissent to protect his vision. It's a pattern seen across history. The Russian revolutions. Lenin initially opposed dictatorship but soon adopted harsh measures like the Red Terror to consolidate power. Similarly, the Iranian Revolution of 1979, led by Ayatollah Khomeini, began with promises of democracy but resulted in an oppressive theocracy. The transition from liberation to control is often too tempting for revolutionaries, leading to the same kind of authoritarianism they fought against. In fact, one study revealed that 65% of revolutions in the 20th century led to authoritarian governments, rather than the democratic ideals initially promised. Chapter 3: The Power Vacuum Paradox, Chaos over Control. After the old regime is toppled, there's a dangerous void of power. This power vacuum can lead to fragmentation, where different factions fight for control. The 2011 Libyan revolution is a prime example. Gaddafi was removed, but the aftermath was chaos, with various groups, tribal, religious, and military, competing for dominance. This fragmentation made it impossible to build a stable government. The power vacuum also invites external interference. In the case of the Libyan revolution, NATO's intervention created a further lack of cohesion within the country. It's not uncommon for power vacuums to lead to further instability, often resulting in a situation that's worse than the one the revolutionaries set out to change. History has shown that a well-organized leadership structure is essential during a revolution's aftermath, or else it's like opening the floodgates for chaos. Research shows that around 45% of revolutions since the 1800s have led to periods of civil war and instability. If you're enjoying this breakdown of why revolutions fail, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the rest of the video. We've still got some fascinating insights to cover. Chapter 4: The Failures of Ideology. Revolutionaries without a plan. Revolutions are often born out of frustration with the current system and a desire to implement a new ideology. But one of the key reasons revolutions fail is the lack of a clear, actionable plan. Revolutionary ideologies, no matter how powerful in theory, often fail when faced with the complexities of real governance. Marxism, for example, was a driving force behind the Russian Revolution, but Lenin and his successors never fully addressed how to transition from a workers' revolution to a functioning state. This left them vulnerable to practical and ideological challenges that they couldn't easily resolve. One of the best examples of this failure comes from the Cuban Revolution. Fidel Castro and his comrades fought for social justice and equality, but after taking power, they struggled with economic realities. They found that implementing socialist policies in a global capitalist world required much more than just overthrowing the old regime. The absence of a practical roadmap often leads to delays, confusion, and resentment, making the revolution's goals seem less attainable. A study of 20th-century revolutions showed that the lack of a clear post-revolutionary plan contributed to 60% of failures. Chapter 5: The Ghosts of Old Regimes, Unseen Forces at Play. When a revolution succeeds, it's easy to think the old regime is gone for good. But the reality is, the ghost of old regimes often lingers, quietly sabotaging progress. Former elites, entrenched institutions, and even foreign powers often continue to exert influence long after the revolutionaries have taken control. For instance, in Egypt, after the fall of Hosni Mubarak, the military remained a powerful force behind the scenes. Even when it seemed like a new era of freedom had arrived, the military's influence shaped the country's political landscape. External forces, such as foreign governments and international organizations, also play a crucial role in the aftermath of revolutions. In Venezuela, the United States' involvement in the country's political turmoil often exacerbated internal divisions. The failure to eliminate these ghosts from the old system, be it through a lack of deconstruction of old institutions or the failure to truly sever external influences, can doom a revolution from within. History shows that about 40% of revolutions face serious setbacks due to these ongoing influences, either internal or external. Are you finding this analysis eye-opening? Don't forget to subscribe, so you'll be the first to see our next chapters. Chapter 6: The Revolution After the Revolution. Can true change happen? Even when a revolution succeeds, the ultimate question remains, can true change happen? Many times, the aftermath of a revolution is a mere reshuffling of power rather than a fundamental transformation. For instance, the 1968 Prague Spring in Czechoslovakia promised reform, but it was crushed by Soviet tanks, leading to a return to the status quo. In a similar vein, after the Arab Spring, many countries saw the emergence of authoritarian regimes instead of democratic reforms. In many cases, the revolution itself might spark temporary change, but the old structures of power are so deeply rooted that they cannot be easily replaced. This is why true, lasting change often proves elusive. A 2016 study by political scientists found that only 30% of revolutions result in permanent, meaningful change. The revolutionaries who succeed in overthrowing a regime often lack the resources, experience, and political savvy to build something truly new. Instead, they may find themselves falling back on the same tactics and structures that failed the previous regime. Revolutions may start with the best of intentions, but the road to success is often much more complicated than it seems. As we've seen, the gap between ideals and reality, the danger of power vacuums, and the persistent influence of old regimes all play key roles in why so many revolutions fail. Understanding these factors is crucial for anyone looking to explore the complexities of political change, and maybe even avoid making the same mistakes in the future.